All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome back. I am still the Calm Scribe, and tonight I am in conversation for the next hour, with Endelle. Endelle is passionate about art and is currently working as a senior animator at Mercury Filmworks. Having spent a lot of time focusing on animation, she is only now getting back into creating art for herself. And in her additional free time, which I'm sure there's a lot of as an animator, she likes doing live streams on Twitch for gaming and drawing. And for anyone that wants to connect with Endelle, all you have to do is type !guest in chat, and her socials will pop up, as will her Twitch stream if you want to jump over and follow. So hello, Endelle. How are you tonight? Welcome for coming through.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm fantastic.
This is great. I'm thrilled to finally have you. So this is the interview that was supposed to happen a couple of weeks ago until some tech at Bell decided to unhook all of my wires without knowledge or permission or reason, really.
Yeah, timing, eh?
Hey, but you know what? It made things better. It was terrible, but it fixed my internet issues. So that's not a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Yeah, so it's actually, yeah, there we go. Yes, beautiful. So how have your holidays been? How are things? What's exciting?
I have been taking full advantage of the holidays, like staying up late, sleeping in, not doing anything. Which in a way kind of sucks because there are things that I wanted to do, but you know what? I'm just going to enjoy this while I can. It's like I don't get to go on vacation often, so...
Yeah, that's what you have to. You have to take it when you can, and that's what I realized.
Oh, yeah.
I was stressed. There was a lot of stuff happening, and I was getting more and more stressed. And then I finally took this week where I'm doing some streaming, but I kind of cut stuff down, and only the stream is what I'm doing. And of course, dealing with the COVID scare with my family and stuff. And
yes.
It was actually today. I was like, you know what? I feel better. I think this was kind of a reboot that I needed, because even when I worked for the man. And I had vacation days, I never would take them. I would never go on vacation. I would always just keep working and doing my own thing. So, but now I have a family, so I have to pay attention to that. Chat, I'm going to press play on the music here. If it is too loud, let me know. It should not be overwhelming our voices, but hopefully still being played gently in the background. Do you want to try saying something, Endelle?
I'm gonna talk like this for a little bit. Can you hear me? Is it okay? I'll just sing along with it. We'll make our own music.
There we go. There's something on in the background. Chat, if there's anything weird about the music, let me know. But that's good there. So welcome. This is an interview I've been teasing for a long time. And
I hope I can do it justice.
I think just the fact that it's happening is doing it justice. So first of all, you've got your whiskey. I've got mine. Toast. Cheers. Welcome to the Writers Chat. What are you sipping on?
Jameson's. Nothing exciting.
Lovely.
It's good though.
It is. Audio was good.
Audio was good. Awesome.
So I've said before on stream that you and I have known each other for quite a while.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to get into how many years exactly that is.
Be dating ourselves.
But yeah, it's been many years that we've known each other. We've known each other since high school or before, actually.
Yeah.
And the school bus.
Oh man.
Playing euchre and fun, all that fun stuff. But now we've grown up.
Here we are.
I'm a writer. We're in the same city, and
that blew my mind when I found that out.
Yeah.
Like, you're here.
So that's once this COVID stuff does settle down, we're gonna spend more time together, obviously.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that's something that I think is definitely needed. There's actually I do New Year's Eve usually each year with mutual friends. I will just say the first name of the one person, and it's him and his wife, and that's Kai and his wife. We always do
I know Kai.
New Year's Eve together and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's fun. And for those of you who also may know, I've discussed previously as well that I have advisors, and my military advisor actually is Endelle's brother. So it's a family affair.
Yeah.
We all go way back. But
all connected.
Exactly. So we've grown up old enough to drink scotch and to talk about things. I'm a writer, and you are an animator.
I am.
And how are you enjoying animating? Before we get into all the details, just there's so many people out there that are like, oh, I want to grow up and I want to be an animator, and you did it. How is it? How do you find it?
It's incredibly rewarding. Like something that you create actually comes to life. You know, it has personality. It moves on screen. Like it's hard. I will say it is hard, but I think that really helps make it more rewarding. You know.
Yeah, I mean, anything you put effort and work and time into does pay off, and I think it's something that you can be proud of in the end, right?
Oh yeah.
That's the big
I'm
thing.
very proud of that. Definitely. I didn't really think that I was good enough to get in the industry, but I had a lot of friends that were just pushing me to get in, and I did. And 11 years later, I'm still at the same studio, so they like me. I must be doing something right.
There we go. That's perfect. So for those of you who know, because I've been saying that this is someone that is an animator, and we've been talking about, I've been teasing this interview for a little while. So you are the senior animator at Mercury Filmworks.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. You've been there for 11 years.
Yeah.
And for some of you to know some of the things that Endelle's been working on behind the scenes for some stuff for a while now. So some titles that you might know, that you might recognize, that she's had her hand in, is Kid Cosmic, that's available on Netflix, as well as The Ghost of Molly McGee on Disney+, Lion Guard on Disney+, Jake and the Neverland Pirates on Disney+, and those are the main ones we're going to talk about right now. There's other things, but of course there's things that cannot be discussed at certain times, just like in writing. There are secrets that must remain hidden behind the scenes. So those are quite the projects that you've worked on along the way.
Mm-hmm. Very big.
Yeah, and how's it feel to go from I don't think I'm good enough to animating on shows and things for Netflix and Disney?
It's pretty surreal. It's like, even now, I still don't feel like I'm cut out for it. Like, I start working on a scene and I just, blank slate. It's like, I don't know what to do. Or blank page, sorry. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm doing. And then suddenly the scene is done and I'm like, oh, okay. I did do it. It looks good. How did this happen? So, I don't know if you ever really feel like you're fully there, even when you're there. Like there's always room for growing, I guess.
I think so, and that was something I shared on social media a while ago that I found, and it was paraphrased, was that artists and creatives never believe in themselves and never believe they're as good as they are because their work always looks homemade to them. And they think that if they just get to the next level, just get a little bit better, then it's not going to look homemade. And the fact is that it is what you've done and it's what you've created, so it is homemade, but it is so much more better and so much more advanced because you're looking at things from your perspective, but people from the outside, I'm butchering this, I'm going to try to find it. But people from the outside are looking at it, and it's really something special.
Absolutely, and I think that it's good that artists have that. The more successful ones are like that, because if they think they're good enough, then they're not going to grow anymore. Because they're not going to be striving more. That's
a really big thing, is to always be pushing, to always believe that, you're not. I think if you've ever hit the point that you feel like you can settle, then you've definitely hit a bad point. Mm-hmm. Somewhere.
There's always room for improvement.
There is. It's really hard to find good artists who like their art. Well, and I think that's the thing, is that's what makes you, having the critical eye, pushing yourself further, is always going to be something that's going to be respected and is going to push your art better. But yeah, in essence, I don't think I'm going to find it, but in essence, that's what it was, is that an artist is always extra critical of themselves because they feel like it's going to look better if someone else did it, it's going to look better and it looks homemade. And it is homemade, it's done by you. And I think it's the same thing with writing. When you write a scene, when you look at something, then it's kind of like, oh, but if this person wrote it, they would have done it so much better. Well, they would have done it in their style, it would have been different, not necessarily better. But,
right, yeah.
Yeah. So what was the... Do you remember what your first project is that you worked on as a professional?
First project was Jake and the Neverland Pirates.
Nice.
I started off as animation, as just a junior animator, and then they ended up creating another department that just did the secondary and the lip sync. So secondary or follow through, they called it secondary, is basically making the bandana and the hair move, like all that little fine details, because the show was moving too slow and a lot of people were spending too much time on that. And that part is where I really shone. So for the majority, actually for basically the entire series that we had, I ended up running that department.
Wow.
So I became the supervisor, and new people would come in or interns would come in, they would give them to me. And so I would guide them through that, and like, because you learn a lot of the basic principles of animation still applied to those particular parts as well. So people got a good sense for even animating before they even became an animator from that. And
That's
I was
really
happy
cool.
to be a part of that team to like help them grow.
That's awesome. So like almost right out the gate, you were inspiring and helping other people as well and building up.
Oh, yeah, I guess I was.
That's really fantastic. So that, and 11 years in, you're still loving it. You're working on all these really cool projects. So it sounds like you've moved through the ranks pretty quickly then to get to where you are.
I guess I have. When I finished Jake, they still put me back as a junior animator, but I advanced really quickly after that because they didn't know how I would do as an actual, like, full-fledged animator. So I did manage to impress them. I wasn't fast, so that did slow me down a little bit, but my stuff was good, which is why I was able to stay on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still... Yeah, fairly quick. There are people who have made it past me, but like they had a direction to go. For me, I was fine where I was.
Yeah.
But up until this year, I'm ready for some kind of change.
Nice.
Like, yeah, because I want to try different things. I want to be the type of person at the studio who can hop in different departments to help out. Like, I want to learn compositing. I want to learn building. I want to learn fixing.
So how tightly do all those departments work together? Is it really one thing is kind of siloed where one thing is done and then shifted off to the next? Or is there a lot of cross chatter and cross talk and working together?
There has to be a lot of cross talk because they depend on each department to be on the same page. So communication is incredibly important.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does get a little difficult between animators and production, which are like the higher ups organizing everything. Sometimes things get lost, but there's been a huge improvement over the past few years with that.
That's awesome.
But
yeah.
But with the artist departments, they're pretty on top of it.
That's good. I think that's the big thing. If you can have open communication between the different silos, that really makes it. Because I've worked in organizations where, and I've actually seen organizations go through this, where they've had everyone siloed, but everyone communicated effectively and really well, and everyone knew what everything was happening.
Yeah.
And there's been a change of management where everything became completely siloed and it all fell apart. And where people weren't communicating, people weren't telling each other what they needed to be doing or what was happening. It was just all of a sudden everything became need to know, and no one needed to know except for the top people. And like even the managers were cut out of decisions, and so everything is kind of
get anything done.
Exactly, right? Everything becomes so rough that way. So it really is important to have these open lines of communication within different departments, within an organization. Because even if it doesn't seem like they need to connect, they need to connect. And it's the same thing when it comes to writing, when it comes to anything creative, video game design, all that fun kind of stuff. But how? My question just left me.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, it'll come back at some point.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, that's what I was going to ask you though. So something that actors get asked all the time in being like, do you watch anything that you ever star in? Do you go back and watch all, like, have you gone back and watched all of your completed animations? Like, do you sit down and crack open Disney Plus and just binge all your shows, or do you avoid them once they're done?
I binged Kid Cosmic. That I found is when I really shone as an animator.
Nice.
Yeah, and the other ones, they're more preschooly. Like, I have watched them, like the finished versions at the studio, but not since it's been released. Except for Kid.
Yeah.
But that one, it's not preschool. So it fits more into something that I would be watching normally anyway.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to watch all of these with my daughter. It's
I'm sure she'll get a kick out of Lion Guard.
Yeah, I mean, she loves colors and flashing lights and stuff, and
oh, yeah.
Bright things moving. But we just, right now, we don't do a lot of screen time with her. Actually, we do basically no screen time with her. So,
well, she's still little.
Yeah, we're kind of holding until she's about 1, and then we'll start introducing screen time.
Yeah.
So it's not to say she doesn't see screens, because she does from time to time with us. But yeah, that's the main thing, is just easing them into it as they go along.
Mm-hmm.
So. So what would you say is one of the most challenging aspects of being an animator?
Getting the emotion down for the scene. It's like you've got to have things posed out a certain way. Like, especially if you're going to have a scene that is powerful, that is, it has to be read a certain way. So you want to make sure that the feeling comes across, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. You have to have, because there's, especially if it's a pivotal scene in the show or in the story, right? And there's a big emotional impact on it that's going to drive something forward, or, I think that's the thing with writing and animating is, with writing, you're writing the scenes, you're trying to put in the words and the language and vocabulary and stuff like that to make an impactful scene and to grab the reader and pull them along. But when you're reading a book, you're fixated in on the book, and you kind of have a little bit of a captive audience. So I think there's a little bit more leeway there that you can, because the person is fixated on the page and you're pulling them in. Whereas when you're looking at a screen, you have to make sure the dialogue fits, you have to make sure the scene fits, and you have to make sure that you've got, like I said, the emotion, the expression, all that stuff kind of tie in. And there's more distractions, because if you're looking at a TV screen, you can see someone walking past, you can have all these different things. And so I imagine it's going to be really more difficult. Tiny
little motions can really speak a lot.
Yeah, so it's going to be difficult to get and pull that through. Is there any particular tricks that you do? Like, how do you go about doing that if there is a really emotional scene? How do you get yourself into that mind frame to build that emotion into the scene? And hello, Kitty, how are you?
No. I put myself into the character's shoes, really. So, because acting is a big part of animating. And so, okay, how's the character feeling? They're sad. Okay, well, what made me sad? What kind of situation have I been in myself? Just to put myself there. Is a lot of it you act it out yourself before you put it down on paper, so to speak. So a lot of the times I do stuff like that. There was one scene that I'd done where the character basically went into a rage. And while I was working on this scene, my scene crashed. I lost over an hour's worth of work. And so that was probably one of my best scenes that I had done, because I felt that rage and was able to put it in.
Oh, that's going to be so much more pain. I know the pain of working for an hour and losing words, but you can usually, with most word devices now, you can go back and pull back what you've lost. You can find a shadow of a backup somewhere. Is that the same?
If you had autosave, save up. And I do usually, normally, I'll finish one thing and then I'll save, but I was in the zone. And I turn autosave off because that's interrupted my flow too many times. So once you get into that flow, you just you keep going, and then you zero in, and then that happens.
Oh, that's tough. That is so tough. That's so. After you flip the desk and put everything back, you.
The scene looked great though.
Now, here's the big question: did it look,
Yeah.
now that you went through and did essentially a practice run of doing the scene, was it even better the second time?
It was. I got it done faster too. It's like, okay, I know what I'm doing now at least. So it's like, ugh. But yeah, it definitely looked better. Definitely was more powerful.
So there's something that I actually just got recently.
Ooh.
And I don't know if there's something, if you use, I mean, obviously you've got reference materials and stuff like that, but a thing my wife just got me is the Emotion Thesaurus. And it's a writer's guide to emotions. So it'll actually give you, if you look at the different emotion like disgust, and it gives you the definition, what are the physical signs and behaviors, what are the internal sensations, what are the mental responses, what are the acute or long-term responses to the emotion, and signs that the emotion is being suppressed, like offering a watery smile while maintaining a safe distance, hesitating while forcing oneself to come closer. So
That's good.
are there books like this that you use for that kind of thing, where like it really breaks down? Because again, as a writer, you're like, if someone's being guilty, you know that they're replaying what happened and making it bigger in their own mind. Their thoughts are filled with self-loathing, and then so for the signs that it's being suppressed, they're fidgeting and throat clearing. They're becoming excessively resourceful or helpful to make up for earlier failures. They've got a tightness in their chest. They've got pain in the back of their throat. So just little sensations and triggers that you can do.
That's so good.
Yeah. So
That's
is
so
there?
well. Oh man, for that stuff in particular, not that I know of. Because like that's a lot of like fine-tuning stuff. We do have for animation somewhere. Oh, I don't know where my books are. The Animator's Survival Guide.
Okay.
Yeah, which I have somewhere, or I left it at work. Ah, the survival kit. Ugh. But that's just for animation itself.
Yeah.
But for the refining of the emote, that is really good.
Yeah.
Give me a link to that book. 'Cause, like after that, we just look on Google or find some other shows or movies that have that kind of thing and do what other animators have done, like using them as references.
Yeah. Well, I'll get you another. Like, I'll give you the list to it because they've also got the Emotional Wound Thesaurus, the Occupation Thesaurus, the Positive and Negative Trait Thesaurus. There's a bunch. Actually, there's the list here. Positive trait, the Rural Setting Thesaurus, the Emotion Amplifiers, the Occupation, the Urban Setting. There's a few of them that they have, and it's really great to be able to, if you're doing that scene, because if you're getting into nuanced aspects of the scene that you're doing.
I would be very interested in that. Maybe doing something like that in my Draw With Me streams, like try to draw out the descriptions.
Well, that's a really cool idea.
That's really... Thank you.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because I hopped in another writer, Ted. I hopped in his stream the other day, and he was going through this book. I'm like, oh, my wife got me that for Christmas. And he's like, my wife got me that for Christmas. And then something that comes through all of through a lot of our streams, Bill popped in, and he's like, hey, I got that book at Christmas. So it's like the book right now.
Popular
apparently.
book!
Yeah. So I do recommend it. Pain in the back of the throat is also a sign of high blood pressure. There you go. That's good to know.
You're eating too much spicy food.
There's no such thing as too much spicy food.
I may have burned the back of my throat with a Scotch bonnet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, no, I used to. I still have them, but these candies called Atomic Hot Fireballs. And I'm addicted to them.
I love those.
And so I buy them by like the case from Amazon now. So I used to have to drive to the States to get them. But when I was younger, my mom and I would go on the challenges. And at one point, I think we're seeing how many we could put in our mouths at once. And I think I did 6 or 7, and it like burned the inside of my mouth. Oh my. Not to mention a massive choking hazard. But the yes, as SJ is saying, there's also the Packy One Chip Challenge. That has not been done
I want
yet.
to do that.
It has not yet been done. This one is still sealed.
Ooh, I have to watch you do that.
I was going to say, or what we should do is sometime when things calm down, do a co-stream together, actually together, and split the chip.
Okay.
Because it's hard to come across. It took me a great difficulty and ridiculous expense to bring that chip in, because the
I'm
FDA,
all for it.
well, the FDA has had stopped, like, didn't allow imports of it this year because it was so spicy. So that one tortilla chip cost almost $45.
Wow.
Yeah. But
Okay.
if I finally got it here, I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to try
Oh my
it.
gosh. Yeah, if we split it, I'll split the cost with you.
Oh no, that's
The
fine.
least I can do. Oh, dude.
You'll be suffering along with me.
That's fine.
That's
fun.
yeah. There's actually, there's a spot that a lot of you obviously don't know. There's a spot in the town where Endelle and I grew up that is very famous for its wing night, and I would go in and I would always get suicide sauce or suicide coated wings with hot sauce on the side, like suicide sauce on the side to dip into it. And I guess one night I really angered the chef that was cooking. And it got to the point that I actually, partway through my meal, I had to run outside, luckily it was winter, and shove handfuls of snow in my mouth. Because it was on fire. And like there was blood. Like this, I was spit the snow, there was blood. Like, I don't know what they did to make these wings. But they were the hottest wings I'd ever come across. It was pretty wild.
Man, I'm still so butthurt at that. We were planning going there for wing night the week before. No, it was the week after COVID started.
Oh no.
We were gonna go there.
Yeah. I took my PSW there years ago. I took my PSW there because he's from Somalia. Never been to that kind of a small town here or whatever.
Aww.
And so my wife and I took him to go for wings, and it turned out to be a freezing rainstorm that night. So we got there and it started freezing rain, so we had to drive back.
No! Like, well, I guess we live here now.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. But anyways, yeah, so hot stuff is fun. Most definitely.
But I miss their wings.
Yeah, I do. It's hard to find good wings. Especially in this city, I find it's really hard to find good wings.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just kind of fatty. Hey, thank you, SJ, for the sub. Almost 1 year. I was thinking about that the other day.
Almost a year.
11 months. 11 months total. Look at that. So thank you very much, SJ. I appreciate that. One of my longest subscribers and the mod extraordinaire. There we go. So back to animation though. So you get in. How do you? Oh, that's all right, SJ. How do you get? So you're given a scene, and you know that there's going to be an emotional punch to it. There's something going on. Like, do they basically tell you this is what you need to draw, or is it more along the lines of you look at the script, you look at what's happening, and you've got a bit of free reign to frame it, to kind of do the production on it yourself of like, okay, they're going to be angled, they're facing this way, they're going, it's the, you know, the sun is going to come up behind them, they're going to be in shadow, then they're going to walk into the light, or like, how much leeway do you have in the animation when you do it?
Not a lot of leeway, like to a degree. Everything, we're given storyboards, so they have like rough drawings on where the cameras are supposed to be, like how the angles are supposed to be. And depending on the board artist, some of them are very limited, some of them are very detailed. So the very detailed ones, we tend to follow like what they have put in, like the poses that they have put in. The other ones, you're given like a drawing or maybe two drawings, and then you fill in how you think you should. So it's kind of a combination of the two.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but we are given a guideline on how the framing should be.
That makes sense.
They don't trust the animators to do that. It has to be read a certain way, and the framing does matter.
It does. It does. Well,
yeah.
Thanks for being here, SJ. I greatly appreciate you being here. Have a good day at work tomorrow. Hey, Gobs. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to this chat.
Hi, everybody.
Have a great night, SJ. So that's yeah, so that is I can see that where it has to be done and set out a certain way, because I remember I met years ago, I met one of the animators from The Simpsons. And that was one of the things that he was saying.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I still have it. He drew me a custom drawing, like in the front of one of my sketchbooks. As that, there's this thing. I don't know if anyone out there in other countries, or if anyone even here in Canada knows about it, but there's a thing called Encounters with Canada, and they would choose one representative for each major city from all across Canada, and those representatives would get together for a 2-week-long seminar, like intensive seminar. And the one I did was based on arts and culture. And when I was 16 or 15, I was chosen to represent Ottawa.
And, oh, that's amazing!
Yes, for arts and literature, or arts and culture, and it was fantastic. And that's where I met this guy. Lucky enough for me, the exciting part of it, because it goes from different city each year, and sometimes it's up north, sometimes it's out west or in the east or whatever. Lucky for me, it was in my city. So
perfect.
I had to travel half an hour to go for my 2-week vacation. But this guy came, I got to meet him, and that's what he was saying. Was like Lisa Simpson, for example. Each peak of the base width of each peak of her hair is the exact same as the width of diameter of one of her eyeballs. And they've got things are really, for the Simpsons, are extremely exact as to like how high Bart's hair spikes are, what they are in relation to this and to that, and just everything is really succinct and really laid out. And so I know animation can be really not a lot of margin for error when you're doing things, because a little blip can really show.
Yeah, you can sometimes get away with it if the character's far away. But for the most part, no, you definitely do. A little twig can like really throw off the model.
It seems like animation has become, like, I mean, all things have come along a long way in the arts and the cultures and that kind of thing, but it seems like in animation in particular, even just looking back at the old Simpsons animations, but even some of the older animations, like the Flintstones were pretty tight, but there were some older ones that you would see that, yeah, the background characters didn't really matter that much. Like you would see a main character that was kind of off in the background of distance a little bit, and they wouldn't have their same features. They were just kind of roughly drawn in, and then they would come back. Like I think over time I've seen that things have become a lot more succinct and rigid and strict in how things are done, making sure that everything flows along. I mean, computers, I'm sure, really help along with that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, very much. Like watching back on like even old Looney Tunes cartoons, you can see like, yes, they do a lot of extreme poses, but you can see the models changing quite a bit. It's like everything's hand drawn, or even X-Men.
Yeah.
Watching like the old X-Men, it's like, wow, really come a long way. And you are right, like computers are a big part of that.
Yeah.
Like, everything's done on the computer.
That's true. I absolutely loved the X-Men. I loved the blocky colors. Like this, the animation on that was that and Gargoyles. I love the animation for those fantastically animated cartoons.
Oh, I'd love to watch that again too.
Yeah, actually, I saw something about it the other day.
X-Men's on Disney Plus now, I think, right?
I think so.
The
Yeah, it is. Yeah, X-Men is on Disney Plus, and another one that I loved was The Tick. Was great.
Yeah.
That was just a hilarious cartoon. Simple animation, simple color structures. So do they, now with the computers and stuff being added in, do they still do the same as in, say, with the Flintstones, with the repeated background constantly? If they're running through a room, it's the same background being shot past them? Or do you do more advanced kind of camera angles and tricks now to make sure that it's not as repetitive?
That is more show style instead of like animation itself. So the shows that I've been working on, we haven't had that. Usually if you're going to be seeing something like panning across repeatedly, more often than not, it's just been like a color grade, like a color background.
Okay.
So, but I haven't, like, there aren't too many scenes that last long enough to warrant a repeated background.
That makes sense. So I know a lot of the cartoons are really dynamic now as well. And yeah, Kitty, you're right. Slightly going off the slightest, the fans go ballistic. And the early Simpsons were you could tell the early Simpsons were very hand-drawn.
Yeah.
Like even just within the same scene, you would see like Bart's face moving and the lines kind of wobbling and not being the same. But for me, one of the things, so I've always been interested in animation. I wanted to I was looking at getting the animation, and long story short, I didn't. But that was one of the things that I've really been intrigued with was, for me, one of the big jumps in animation that I saw was going through, watching these cartoons and all this stuff, because I've always watched cartoons my entire life, and seeing the earlier stuff and what it was like. And then there were two jumps. One was in introduction of computer animation and that kind of thing with the ballroom scene in Disney's Beauty and the Beast, where they're dancing, and then you have that all of a sudden this mind-blowingly expansive room, and then there's the reflection off the floor of the lights and everything, and then dancing and swirling. Like, you tell is where computers were brought in and really did some stunning work on that. But also for me, one of the biggest ones was Tarzan from Disney.
Ooh,
I love
really
that was one of the first times I saw ultra dynamic poses in an animation for Disney, where the artists studied surfers and snowboarders and skateboarders for when Tarzan was skating through the trees and surfing through the trees and all this stuff. And it was just, the poses were different, something I'd never seen in Disney before, and just the speed of the movement and things was different. And Tarzan has always kind of stood out for me as a new plateau of animation. Is there anything that's stood out like that for you, like coming along, that you're like, wow, that's the one?
Tarzan definitely had a big impact on just like the wow factor. But what drew me to animation a lot was The Lion King.
Makes sense.
There's just something about it. Like, a lot of it, I think, because the emotion was so powerful, especially with the spoilers for Mufasa death scene. And again, like, being someone who's in love with animals, like,
yeah,
of course I'm drawn to that. But yeah, like, since then, like, that's when I knew I wanted to be an animator.
Well, that makes sense too, because that was a beautifully drawn show or movie, and I think that's also one that was also a little bit groundbreaking as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that one of the ones where Disney had some really, like, expansively dynamic scenes, where it wasn't just, there was a lot more foreground involved in some of the scenes, like when they're walking across the log and jumping off into the water and things like that, where there was not just a close-up view of what's happening with the background happening. It was a lot more like you had a long way to go for foreground. The action was happening kind of in the distance, and then even further depth behind. Like, there was, Lion King had a lot of depth in its scenes.
Bigger. Definitely felt a lot bigger. And it's also like, they probably did this with other movies as well, but like, that's the one that I also noticed how they used a lot of color to express the feelings in specific scenes and specific characters.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's a good point, actually.
Like, yeah, like the playfulness of I can't wait to be king, and like everything is so bright and vibrant, just like childlike, you know. And then with Scar's song too, everything becomes a lot darker, a lot sickly with the greens.
They also slightly changed the animation styles for those scenes too, didn't they? Like, the one with Scar was a lot more sharp and angular, and then one with I Can't Wait to Be King, wasn't that actually, didn't they kind of, for lack of a better term, kitty up the animation, whereas like
Absolutely
more cartoonish and
yes.
So that's great to be able to have that kind of thing put into it. And these are the little things that really make a scene and really jump out at you. Unfortunately, I can't watch Tarzan without bawling my eyes out, so I don't watch it. It's like,
I was reading, or one of the interviews they had with Tarzan's animator, when he was seeing Jane for the first time, the eyes.
Yeah.
Like, how that spoke. He's like trying to get that eyes, like the, oh my god, like seeing somebody who is like you for the first time. Like, he was using like the first time that he looked at his daughter or his child or whatever for the first time, just like the I can't believe what I'm seeing type of thing. Like, wow.
Yeah, that is a magical moment.
I love it.
Well, that's one of the things I really like about the game, because on stream I've been playing Boy and His Blob, and it's a remake of the original. I absolutely love it. The last couple are freaking impossible. The last couple levels are so hard. For the past 3 times that I've streamed Boy and His Blob, I'm like, today we defeat Boy and His Blob. Beans? Yeah, still jelly beans. Still, they really threw back. I think they actually did this one in 2012. and then it got benched, and then because they did another variation of it, and then this one that is now came out just this year.
No way.
And it's on Nintendo Switch. It's a lot of fun. But the nice thing is, when you go through, there's secrets. You have to get the 3 treasure chests to unlock secrets within each level. And those secrets, most of them, go to behind the scenes of character sketches, drawing, like the storyboards, all little things of how they developed the different backgrounds, the different scenes, different characters. And there's also a video of how they modeled the little boy off of one of the animators, or one of the game designers' 6-year-old son. So there's this scene where if you hit a certain button, the little boy will call over Blob and then hug him, bend over and hug him. So there's actually this scene of video where you see the 6-year-old boy with a sleeping bag that's piled up, and he goes over and he hugs the sleeping bag. And it's the exact same animation that they've used for the game. And it's so endearing.
That is so cute.
Yeah.
Oh, that kid's gonna have bragging rights for life. He'd be like, boy, this Blob, it's me.
Yeah, except they made him kind of rude a little bit in this version.
Oh no!
Where there's like, I've picked it up, and there's people in my stream are like,
maybe not bragging rights.
yeah, there's people in my stream are like, yeah, kid's kind of like rude to Blob sometimes. And it's like, yo, Blob, over here. It's like, okay, pump your brakes, Timmy.
Chill out.
You're okay.
Oh my god.
But it's really amazing and cute to see this stuff. And so that's something that I know, like with this, Boy and His Blob did that. Disney is very big on using for their main feature films that they already know who is going to be the voice actor for. They tend to make the character's face resemble the face of the voice actor. So Simba in Lion King very much resembled Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Scar very much resembled Jeremy Irons. Even Mufasa kind of resembled James Earl Jones in certain ways. Is that something that you find you're doing with the work that you're working on now? Is kind of the same thing that you're trying to mirror to the voice actor a little bit? Or do you know who the voice actor is for the smaller scale projects? No?
I don't know them, no. The designs are already done, so I don't know if they model them off of anybody. But no, I don't. But I guess we haven't really worked on anything with many really highly known actors.
I was gonna say, it's gonna be probably a pretty big budget thing as well. Like, I don't know if you're like, I don't know how that would impact the budget to actually have your voice actors ahead of time. And even if it's a smaller project, even how easy it is to line up your voice actors ahead of time before the animation. They say this is what we're doing. Like, if you're working on The Lion King and you're Disney, it's pretty easy to walk up to Jeremy Irons and say, hey, are you interested in this?
Oh, I'm sure.
Right? I think scale definitely has something to do with the whole thing. So what would you say is the most challenging aspect of being an animator? Like, I've seen Kitty was saying here that the drawing the same thing over and over again with slight changes is something that was difficult for them, and there's a lot of respect for people that can do that kind of thing. And that the Walt era is, whereas they just changed how they did the face things with the Walt era and their era, but with that, with drawing things over and over and that kind of animation, like, what is it in general? Like, what do you find the most challenging aspect of being an animator?
Well, a lot of it is making sure that you're getting the right feeling of the scene. That one really is the biggest for me, anyway.
Getting the emotion.
And making sure that you're getting the perspective right, but that's a more personal thing. But
well, I guess then,
I
was gonna say the other thing too, though, is what's on the days you wake up. Like, I know for myself as a writer, there's days I wake up and I'm like, I just don't have it in me to do anything. I don't have a creative drop in my body. What do you do as an animator when you've got that? Like, for me as a writer, I can go and I can edit something in the past. I can work on my website. I can tweak. I can, unless I'm on a strict deadline, then I have to dig deep and find it. But as a writer, I've got more leeway to be able to, yeah, I'm not having a creative mood. I'm just going to go and research the stuff that I tagged needed to be researched and fill in the work that needs to get done, but I don't have to be creative for. What happens as an animator if you wake up and you're like, coffee's not doing it, I don't have it in me?
Okay, to talk about that, I'll have to go into, we are given more than one scene. So there are some scenes that are going to require a lot more brain power, essentially, to pose out. And we are given a week to do our scenes. So depending on the day of the week, like Monday, Tuesday is when you want to focus on your posing. So early in the week, that's when you should have most of your brain power. Later in the week, if you still have some posing to do, but you're just not feeling with it, you can either work on your fixes or jump into actually animating it. Because when you have your scene posed out, again, that's where all of your thinking, that's where all of your planning comes in. When you're animating it, you're filling in the blanks. So, so you can just shut off for a bit and then just do. So that's usually what I do. Like, if I can't feel it, I'll either hop onto a different scene, see if that one speaks to me, or I'll work on the next stage or do some fixes.
How difficult is it to hop from scene to scene?
For me, it's pretty easy. Because, like, I'm a busy bee. Like, I like jumping around from place to place, doing one thing or another. Like, that, I thrive in that kind of environment. Was it last year? No, the year before, I worked on 5 different shows.
Wow.
So, like, and helping out in different departments. So, like, I was helping out with fixes, I was helping out with animation, I was helping out on another show, I was doing mentoring with kids, I was helping out with the lighting, and it was the happiest I've been, like, because I loved being able to do that. So jumping from one scene to another, like, I'm okay with that. Like, that works for me.
That's good. If you've got the brain power for it and you can jump, that's a great way of doing it. It's okay to put it down and walk away and take a break. Well, that's the thing. I think you have to, when things aren't going well, is forcing. Yeah. It's funny, but I find as humans, we have difficulty correlating things. If you have something you're trying to force, like, into a glass jar, like you're trying to shove a stuffed animal into a glass jar that doesn't fit, the jar is going to break, and it's not going to end well for anybody. But with us, if we have a moment where we're not being creative, we're just like, well, no, I have to do this, I'm going to force it through. There's something in the back of our head going, no, the jar's not going to break, it'll be fine. I'll force through, it'll be done, and it'll be okay. And it's like, no, it's not going to be what you want it to be, and you're going to be more angry because you're going to have to go back and fix it, or you're going to be disappointed because you've got something that's subpar for what you want it to do.
Oh, exactly. And to make sure that you eat. Like,
yes.
Have your breakfast, have your lunch. There was one animator back when we were still in the studio who, they were stressing out, they weren't getting it, and they didn't have their lunch yet. I'm like, well, you don't have lunch. They're like, I don't feel like I deserve my lunch right now. I need to get this done. I'm like, no. And I, like, dragged them out of their desk, and I took them out for lunch. Like, you need to step away. You need to eat. Because, like, your brain's not going to work if it's running on no energy. They thanked me later for that, and they're like, yeah, you're right. I feel a lot better now. I'm like, I've been there. There's a reason. I've done the whole working 12-hour days every day on weekends, like, thinking that I'm not good enough. I gotta get this done. And so, no, you take care of you.
That's a big thing.
We'll get better.
Yeah, eating, drinking, getting your rest, that kind of stuff is huge, because all you're doing is drawing into a deficit. Exactly. And you're not going to come back from that. Like, it's important to do that. And the same thing with writing. And that's a big thing with me, is I tend to get into a zone because I would paint and stuff like that as well. But when I was painting or writing, before my wife and baby, I would sit down and I would start working on a project at like 9 o'clock in the morning. And the next thing I know, I'd look up and it'd be like 10 o'clock at night. And I hadn't gone to the bathroom, I hadn't eaten anything, I hadn't drank anything. It was just like, it's a slip into this almost comatose state, and you're just doing. And then you come up and you're like, wow, I've got a big price to pay now for doing that.
I'm afraid to move. I have to pee so bad.
Exactly. So with that, then a big question that comes up, like some difficult questions that are obviously have to be asked. There's a lot of writers in the chat. I'm a writer. There's a lot of us that are trying to do different things. Everyone's trying to get scripts sold to publishing houses, to movie studios, all these different things. As an animator, is there even any kind of tip you can give to someone as to how to get a script looked at or a story looked at by an animation studio? Even if it's something like, make sure you've got the emotion down tight. Like, is there something that they'll automatically be like, no, that's a write-off? Or, anything to kind of get some
Having
advice.
connections goes a long way, for sure. Like, making friends with people in the industry it's a big one. But also, the Animation Festival takes pitches all the time. So
Great.
getting yourself signed up for that, and the Animation Festival, is it October every year? I can't remember if it's September or October every year. But definitely look into that.
That's great advice. Yeah, because that's something that I think that, as a writer, I wouldn't necessarily think of. Because you think about writing conventions and comic conventions and stuff like that, but to go to animation festivals and things, that's a fantastic advice. The other thing is, if someone is looking at breaking into animation, what bit of advice would you give them, either of taking the path to take of going through school, or the path of just being mentally aware of what do you need to do to be cut out? If someone's considering to be an animator, what do they need to do to be cut out to be an animator, or what do they need to have, and what steps would you recommend they take? Even if
I do recommend going to school, because it helps you build up your portfolio, and it helps you learn the basics and gets you familiar with the software that we use, the programs that we use for animating. At Mercury Filmworks, we use Toon Boom Harmony to animate. It's all done on the computer, so you'll learn how to use that program in school as well. Biggest word of advice, if you do get in, is to listen to your supervisors, because they will tell you to do something different than what we're hoping to do in your scene a lot of the time. And there's a reason that they're telling you to do it a different way. So a lot of people, their ego can get too high.
Okay.
So if you're not open to constructive criticism, to change certain things, it's going to cause a lot of friction in your job.
So it's listening to your editor. Sometimes, even though you really, really want to do this scene, there's
a reason why they're saying it.
Yeah.
So you gotta trust that, and a lot of the times too, after you make that change, to be like, oh, okay, I get it now.
That makes sense.
I've been in that situation before too, just I don't agree with you, but I'll do it. Okay, I agree with you.
Now I see where you're coming from.
I get it.
Yeah. So at some point in the next few minutes, people are going to start coming and joining us.
Oh, cool.
That's what this is.
Alrighty.
Yes. So that's what I was saying. This is going to be turned into a bit of a retrospective where people that I've worked with, interviewed, chatted with, stuff like that, co-streamed with across, have all been invited. Who can make it? Because schedules change, things change, people get sick, people have tech issues, all that fun stuff. So are you game to stick around for a while still, or?
I think so.
Yep.
What time is it?
It is 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Stick around for a bit longer. I
Hey,
did promise
Eli.
Phasmophobia game later, but that's later.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So one thing I did want to ask you, because I like to, when we're doing these interviews, do a random question out of the blue. And so for you, you are a animator, you're an illustrator, you're a streamer, you do all that fun stuff. Of all the characters you have ever animated, or drawn, or created, or anything along those lines, which one would you most prefer to do a stream with? To come to life, sit at your side, and do a stream with you?
Oh, that's a good question. think Molly from Molly McGee. She's
Yeah.
got like such a cheerful, positive, bubbly personality. I think that we could just vibe off of each other with that.
That's awesome. That is a great response. Like I said, I'm gonna go through and watch all of your stuff myself. I'm not gonna wait for Maya. Thing is, with a baby, it's hard to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Even doing the After the Weave talk show with the Wheel of Time, there were times where it was like, I would do 2 viewings, one to watch it for enjoyment and one to watch for back to back. And there were times where those 2 viewings were at like 3 o'clock the day I had to do my stream. So the stream is at 7:30 at 3 o'clock. I'm like, okay, I'm sitting here enjoying this one. Enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it. Okay, now take notes. The second one. But babies do that kind of thing, so that's always fun. But
The baby.
yes,
Enjoy it while you can.
that's what I try to do. There's
Yeah.
that a lot of chaos. Like people look at me when I've got 6 heads when I say that. They're like, oh, how do you like being a dad? Well, it's the most rewarding and most frustrating thing I've ever done in my entire life. Like, I love it. I love her to pieces, but there are days I just want to pull my hair out. And you can't help that. When you have not slept in 36 hours and the baby decides that it's party time when it's supposed to be bedtime, and she's screaming nonstop, then you're just like, you're at your wit's end. It's a thing. You have to dig deep and find ways to get that extra little energy to keep going. So
I applaud you for doing this and doing that, you know. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I do enjoy all of it though. So I do want us to have more of a time to talk. I know we were supposed to have a longer interview with the last time we were supposed to do it, and we were talking about possibly doing games. So I'd love to have you come back in the next little while and do a proper stream where we just play games and chat and just have fun and find a game that we can play.
That'd be great.
Yeah, figure that out. Because I was actually thinking like Phasmophobia or something that's a little more frightening, or something that we can kind of feed off each other's reactions and stuff would be fun. So.
You have that game?
I don't, but I'm looking at getting it. I don't. And actually, I'm starting on the game topic, because I play Switch games on Saturdays. This Saturday, I'm starting speedrunning a new game. So I speedrun Superliminal. And
Yes.
this week I've started speedrunning Super Mario World.
You know, I was just looking at your channel recently and I saw that you were playing that. I'm like, oh, and I missed it.
Yeah, so
I'll have to definitely join in next time. I'm like, yeah, there you go.
Yubs. Yeah, well, so Saturday I'm going to try to finish Boyna's Blob, and I'm going to try to do a couple of speedruns. I don't speedrun the whole game, it's the 11 exit. So you get to Bowser in 10 exits, and then you kill Bowser and you go through. So my unofficial
that's a speed run.
best time is 16. It's just under 17 minutes. So we'll see from there. And then Gobs and I are going to be racing each other at some point. So thank you very much for joining me for the interview part of this. I greatly appreciate it. And
thank you for doing this. This was a lot of fun.
it is a lot of fun.